The shuttle's engines hummed with nervous energy as Captain Marcus Reed adjusted his diplomatic uniform one final time. Through the viewport, Zarian Prime gleamed like a jewel against the star-filled void, its purple atmosphere swirling with bioluminescent clouds. 3 years of preparation had led to this moment, humanity's first official diplomatic contact with the Zirithi Empire. "Remember, Captain," Ambassador Williams said from the seat behind him, "these beings value strength above all else. Show weakness, and we lose any chance at an alliance." Marcus nodded, though his stomach churned with anticipation. The Zarithi were known throughout the galaxy as fierce warriors, their empire spanning dozens of systems. Their females, according to intelligence reports, were even more formidable than their males. The shuttle touched down in the Imperial capital with barely a whisper. As the ramp lowered, Marcus stepped into an alien world that took his breath away. Crystalline spires twisted skyward like frozen lightning, while gardens of sentient plants swayed without wind. The air itself seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly energy, but it was the figure waiting for them that truly stopped him cold. Princess Zara Velthara stood at the center of a formation of guards, and Marcus felt his training desert him entirely. She was tall, easily matching his 6-foot frame, with skin that seemed to hold starlight beneath its surface. Her hair cascaded in waves of deep violet, and her eyes burned with the intensity of twin suns. She wore armor that looked more like art than protection, its flowing lines emphasizing every curve of her athletic form. "Humans," she said, her voice carrying an accent that made his name sound like music, "you stand on sacred ground." Before Marcus could respond, explosions rocked the landing platform. Smoke and debris filled the air as armed figures in dark armor emerged from hidden positions. Their weapons trained on the princess. Assassins. One of her guards shouted, but the attackers moved with deadly precision. In seconds, half her escort lay motionless on the crystalline ground. Marcus reacted on pure instinct. Years of combat training took over as he drew his sidearm and placed himself between Zara and the nearest attacker. The weapon in his hand barked twice, dropping the assassin before the alien could fire. "This way," he shouted to Zara, grabbing her hand without thinking. She resisted for a moment, her golden eyes flashing with surprise and something that might have been offense. No one touched royalty without permission. But another explosion nearby made the decision for her, and she allowed him to pull her toward the shuttle. "My people," she protested, looking back at her fallen guards. "Are beyond help," Marcus said grimly, though it pained him to be so blunt. "We need to move now." They ran together across the platform as more explosions lit the alien sky. The shuttle was damaged, smoke pouring from its engines, but Marcus spotted a service tunnel leading into the city's underground. He guided Zara toward it, his free hand never leaving hers. As they descended into the tunnel, the sounds of battle faded above them. In the sudden quiet, Marcus became acutely aware of the alien princess pressed against his side. Her breathing rapid but controlled. Her skin radiated warmth, and her scent reminded him of midnight flowers and distant storms. "You saved my life," she said quietly, her voice echoing in the tunnel. "Anyone would have done the same," Marcus replied, though his heart was racing, for reasons that had nothing to do with the recent violence. "No," Zara said, turning to face him in the dim light. "Not anyone. You risked yourself for someone you barely know."
"What?"
"For an alien." She studied his face with those burning eyes.
"What
manner of creature are you, Marcus Reed?" The way she said his name sent electricity through his veins. "It's just a man trying to do what's right." Something shifted in her expression, a wall coming down that he hadn't even realized was there. "Then you are unlike any male I have encountered." Her hand, still in his, tightened slightly, human or otherwise. The ancient ruins stretched before them like a forgotten dream carved in stone and starlight. Marcus followed Zara through chambers that had been old when humanity was still learning to make fire, their walls covered in symbols that seemed to pulse with their own inner light. "These are the deep archives," Zara explained, her voice reverent. As she touched a crystalline panel, the chamber responded to her presence, filling with a soft glow that made her skin luminous. "My ancestors built this place 10,000 years ago. No one comes here anymore." "It's incredible," Marcus breathed, genuinely awed. The engineering alone was beyond anything he'd seen, but there was something more, an aesthetic sensibility. That spoke to beauty as much as function. They had been hiding for hours now, the sounds of the search parties growing more distant as night fell over the capital. The assassins, it seemed, had been targeting the entire royal family. Zara's younger brother was confirmed dead, and her parents' fate remained unknown. "I should have seen it coming," she said, sinking onto a stone bench carved with intricate patterns. For the first time since the attack, her composure cracked. Slightly, the political tensions, the whispers in court. "I was too focused on the human delegation to notice the danger in my own home." Marcus sat beside her, careful to maintain respectful distance despite the pull he felt toward her. "This isn't your fault. Intelligence failures happen to the best of us. Do they?" Zara's golden eyes found his, and he saw pain there that made his chest ache. "On your world, do leaders fail their people so completely?" "Every day," Marcus said. "Honestly, we're not perfect, Zara. Far from it. We make mistakes, we fail, we hurt the people we're supposed to protect. The measure of a leader isn't whether they fail, it's what they do after." She was quiet for a long moment, studying him. "Your people fascinate me, Marcus Reed. Your files say you're soldiers, explorers, builders of ships that sail between stars. But I see something else in you. What do you see?" "Hope," she said simply. "Even now, with death all around us, and your diplomatic mission in ruins, you still believe things can be better." Their eyes met, and Marcus felt something fundamental shift between them. The careful diplomatic distance that had defined their interactions dissolved, replaced by something raw and honest and terrifying. "Tell me about your world," Zara said, moving slightly closer. "Tell me about Earth." So he did. He told her about oceans that stretched to the horizon and mountains that touched the sky. He described cities that pulsed with life in wilderness areas where a person could walk for days without seeing another soul. He spoke of art and music, of the way humans created beauty for its own sake. "Your people sound," she paused, searching for the right word, "passionate." "We are," Marcus admitted. "Sometimes to our detriment, and you?" Zara asked, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "Are you passionate, Marcus Reed?" The question hung in the air between them like a living thing. Marcus found himself studying her face, the sharp line of her jaw, the full curve of her lips, the way her hair caught the chamber's ethereal light. She was alien, yes, but beautiful in a way that transcended species. "I try to keep my passions in check," he said carefully. "Why?" "Because passion can be dangerous. It can make you do things that aren't rational, aren't safe." Zara leaned closer, close enough that he could feel the warmth radiating from her skin. "Perhaps," she said, "safety is overrated." Before Marcus could respond, she closed the distance between them, her lips finding his in a kiss that set his world on fire. She tasted like starlight and promises, and every logical thought in his head scattered like leaves in a storm. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. Zara's eyes were wide, as if she couldn't quite believe what she'd just done. "That was ... Marcus began. "A mistake," Zara finished, but she didn't sound convinced. "Was it?" She looked at him for a long moment, conflict clear in her expression. "My people don't form attachments lightly, Marcus. When we choose someone, it's ... permanent. If I were to tell you that humans are the same way?" Something flickered in her eyes. Hope, perhaps, or fear. "Then I would say we're in more trouble than we thought." Dawn on Zarian Prime painted the sky in shades of violet and gold, and Marcus woke to find Zara already standing at the chamber's ancient window. She had found clothing in one of the archive's storage areas, a simple robe that somehow made her look more regal than her formal armor had. "The search parties have moved on," she said, without turning around. "It's safe to leave now." Something in her tone made Marcus sit up straighter. The warmth from the night before had been replaced by careful formality, and he felt the distance she was putting between them like a physical ache. "Zara," he began, but she cut him off. "Princess Zara," she corrected gently but firmly. Night was ... a moment of weakness. The stress of the attack, the isolation. It won't happen again. Marcus stood and moved to stand beside her, careful not to touch despite every instinct screaming at him to do so. "Look me in the eyes and tell me you feel nothing." She turned then, and he saw the struggle in her golden gaze. "What I feel is irrelevant. I have responsibilities, Marcus. It's my people. It's my empire. I can't abandon those four for what?" "Happiness? For a fantasy," she said sharply. "You'll return to your ship soon, back to your own world. Whatever this is between us, it has no future." Before Marcus could respond, voices echoed from the tunnels beyond the archives. Zara tensed her hand, moving instinctively to where her weapon would normally hang. "Royal Guard," she breathed, relief evident in her voice. "They've found us." The next few hours passed in a whirlwind of activity. Zara's surviving guardsmen escorted them back to the palace, where they found the royal family alive but shaken. The assassination attempt had been thwarted, but barely. Political tensions were at their breaking point. Marcus found himself quartered in the diplomatic wing, officially under guard for his own protection. In reality, he suspected Zara had arranged it to keep him away from her. The thought stung more than he cared to admit. 3 days passed with no word from her. Marcus threw himself into diplomatic work, meeting with Zarathi officials and trying to salvage some kind of agreement from the chaos. But his thoughts kept drifting to golden eyes and the taste of starlight. On the 4th night, she came to him. Marcus was reviewing trade proposals when his door chimed softly. He opened it to find Zara standing in the corridor, no longer wearing armor or formal robes. Instead, she wore a simple dress of midnight blue that clung to her curves and made his mouth go dry. "We need to talk," she said simply. She led him through corridors he'd never seen before, past sleeping guards and into a part of the palace that felt ancient and sacred. Finally, they emerged into a garden that took his breath away. Bioluminescent flowers carpeted the ground like fallen stars, while trees with silver bark reached toward the twin moons above. A small stream wound through it all, its water glowing with the same ethereal light as the plants. "This is my private sanctuary," Zara said, her voice soft. "No one comes here but me. Why did you bring me here?" She turned to face him, moonlight painting her features in silver and shadow. "Because I can't stop thinking about you. Because every moment we're apart feels like dying. Because I've tried to be responsible and dutiful, and all I can think about is how right it felt to be in your arms." Marcus stepped closer, his heart hammering against his ribs. "Zara, ... No, it's impossible," she continued, her voice breaking slightly. "I know there's no future for us. But right now, in this moment, I don't care about tomorrow. I only care about tonight." The space between them evaporated like morning mist. When Marcus cupped her face in his hands, she leaned into his touch, as if she'd been starving for it. Their second kiss was different from the first, desperate, hungry, full of all the longing they'd been suppressing. "This is madness," she whispered against his lips. "Then let's be mad together." They sank down among the glowing flowers, the garden's light painting their skin in shades of blue and silver. Marcus traced the curve of her neck with his lips, marveling at the way she shivered beneath his touch, her hands tangled in his hair, pulling him closer as if she could merge their very souls. "I've never felt anything like this," she confessed, her voice raw with emotion. "Neither have I." They made love under alien stars, surrounded by impossible beauty, two hearts finding solace in each other despite the gulf between their worlds. Afterward, they lay entwined among the luminous blooms, neither wanting to break the spell that held them. "What happens now?" Marcus asked, his fingers tracing patterns on her bare shoulder. Zara was quiet for a long moment. "Now we face the consequences." The storm broke 3 days later, and it came from the last direction Marcus expected: his own people. He was reviewing grain shipment protocols when Commander Hayes, from the diplomatic vessel, burst into his quarters without ceremony. The older man's face was grim, his uniform rumpled as if he'd been traveling hard. "Pack your gear, Reed. We're leaving now." Marcus looked up from his tablet, confused. "Sir, the negotiations are over." Hayes' voice was ice cold. Seems someone's been sharing more than cultural insights with the locals. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. Somehow, they knew about Zara. Commander, I can explain, you can explain to the tribunal. Hayes gestured to the two security officers flanking him. Captain Marcus Reed, you're under arrest for violation of the non-interference protocol. Conduct unbecoming an officer, and treason. Treason? The charge was so absurd Marcus almost laughed.
For what?
For compromising Earth's first diplomatic mission with your inability to keep it in your pants? Hayes stepped closer, lowering his voice. Did you really think no one would notice you sneaking around with their princess? The entire palace is talking about it. As the security officers moved to restrain him, Marcus felt his world crumble. Not because of his own fate, he'd known the risks when he chose to pursue Zara, but because of what this would mean for her. If the humans were withdrawing in disgrace, the political consequences for the Zarathi royal family would be devastating. At least let me say goodbye, he said, hating how the words sounded like begging. Absolutely not. You've done enough damage. They marched him through the palace corridors like a common criminal, past staring servants and diplomatic staff.
Ow.
Marcus kept his head high, but inside he was dying. Somewhere in this vast complex, Zara was probably hearing the news, probably. Learning that her moment of happiness had destroyed everything she'd worked for. But as they reached the main entrance, she appeared as if summoned by his thoughts. Princess Zara Velthara stood in the great doorway, flanked by her own guards, and dressed in full ceremonial armor. Her face was a mask of royal composure, but Marcus could see the pain in her golden eyes. Commander Hayes, she said formally, I trust you'll reconsider this hasty departure. Hayes barely looked at her. With respect, Your Highness, we have nothing further to discuss. On the contrary, Zara stepped forward, and something in her bearing made even the hardened commander take notice. Captain Reed acted under my express orders to investigate security concerns within the palace. His proximity to me was part of that investigation. It was a lie, and everyone knew it, but it was the kind of diplomatic fiction that could save face for both sides. Marcus felt a surge of admiration for her quick thinking, even as his heart broke at the formal distance in her voice. That's not what our intelligence suggests, Hayes said coldly. Then your intelligence is flawed. Zara's voice carried the authority of 10,000 years of royal bloodline. I'm prepared to sign a formal statement to that effect. For a moment, Marcus thought it might work. Then Hayes smiled, and the expression was ugly. Unfortunately, we have visual evidence that contradicts your version of events, Princess. Seems the captain forgot that palace gardens have security sensors. The color drained from Zara's face, but she didn't back down. Then you'll also have evidence that I initiated contact. Captain Reed was simply accommodating diplomatic relations. Jesus Christ, Hayes muttered. You're willing to throw away your own reputation for this fool? I'm willing to tell the truth, Zara replied steadily. When Marcus realized what she was doing and what it would cost her, in Zarathi culture, admitting to initiating intimate contact with an alien would be social suicide for a royal. She would be branded as contaminated, unfit for the throne. She was willing to destroy her own future to save his. No, he said firmly. Stepping forward despite the restraints, Commander Hayes is right. I violated my orders and compromised the mission. Princess Zara bears no responsibility for my actions. Marcus, don't, Zara started, but he cut her off. I acted alone, he continued, looking directly at Hayes. The princess is telling the truth about the investigation, but I exceeded my authority. Whatever relationship developed between us was entirely my doing. It was his turn to lie, and he did it convincingly. He could see Zara's eyes filling with tears she couldn't shed in public, could feel her silent gratitude and heartbreak in equal measure. Hayes studied them both for a long moment, then nodded curtly. Then justice will be served appropriately. Move out. Yes. As they dragged Marcus toward the shuttle, he looked back one last time. Zara stood frozen in the doorway, her armor gleaming in the alien sunlight, looking every inch the untouchable princess she'd been when he first met her. But he could see the woman underneath, the one who'd kissed him among glowing flowers and whispered his name like a prayer. She raised one hand slightly, a gesture so small that only he would notice, and pressed it briefly over her heart. It was goodbye. They both knew it. 6 months after leaving Zarian Prime in disgrace, Marcus Reed stood before a military tribunal on Luna Base, stripped of his rank and facing a dishonorable discharge. The charges had been reduced thanks to his cooperation and Zara's official statement, but his career was over. His life as he'd known it was finished. He didn't care. Every night he dreamed of golden eyes and starlight skin, of a garden where impossible flowers bloomed under alien moons. He'd traded his future for a handful of perfect moments, and he'd do it again without hesitation. The defendant will rise for sentencing, the tribunal president announced. Marcus stood, squaring his shoulders. Whatever came next, he'd face it with the same dignity Zara had shown when she sacrificed her reputation to protect him. But before the president could speak, the chamber doors burst open with a sound like thunder. A figure in gleaming armor strode in, flanked by an escort that made the tribunal's security look like toy soldiers. Gasps echoed through the room as everyone recognized the newcomer. Princess Zara Velthara had come to Earth. She moved with the deadly grace Marcus remembered. But there was something different about her now, a weight of authority that spoke of new responsibilities. The formal armor she wore was more elaborate than before, marked with symbols he didn't recognize. "This tribunal is suspended," she announced, her voice carrying easily through the stunned chamber. "Your Highness," the tribunal president stammered. "This is highly irregular." "We have no authority to. You have no authority at all in this matter," Zara interrupted smoothly. "Captain Reed was acting as my personal agent under Imperial mandate. This court has no jurisdiction over Imperial business." It was complete fabrication, of course, but delivered with such conviction that several tribunal members actually looked uncertain. Marcus felt his heart racing at seeing her again, drinking in every detail of her appearance. She looked tired, he noticed, with new lines of stress around her eyes. Furthermore, Zara continued, producing an ornate scroll from her armor. "The Zarathi Empire formally requests the extradition of Captain Reed to face Imperial justice for his crimes against the crown." The tribunal president looked like he might faint. Extradition to an alien power was unheard of, completely outside any legal framework Earth possessed. But refusing a direct request from humanity's first alien contact would be equally unprecedented. That is... We'll need to consult with higher authorities," the president managed. "Of course," Zara said graciously. "Captain Reed will remain in my custody pending those discussions." Before anyone could object, her guards moved forward and smoothly transferred Marcus from human custody to alien protection. He found himself standing beside Zara, close enough to smell the familiar scent of midnight flowers that clung to her hair. "This is insane," he whispered as they were escorted from the chamber. "Completely," she agreed, not looking at him. "I've just committed an act that could be considered kidnapping by your authorities and abuse of power by mine. Why?" Now she did look at him, and he saw everything in her eyes: love, determination, and a reckless hope that made his breath catch. "Because I discovered something in the months after you left," she said quietly. "I learned that being responsible and dutiful means nothing if you're not true to your heart. I learned that some things are worth any risk, any sacrifice." They were taken to a secure diplomatic facility where Zara's ship waited, not a military vessel this time, but a sleek civilian craft that spoke of wealth and independence. As they boarded, Marcus finally found his voice. "What's changed, Zara?" "Your position, your responsibilities, everything changed," she said, leading him to the ship's observation deck. Through the transparent walls, Earth hung below them, like a blue jewel. "My father died 2 months ago. I'm Empress now." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. "I'm so sorry. I should have been there. You couldn't have been," Zara said simply. "But I wished you were." Every day of his illness, every moment of the funeral rites, every decision I've had to make since taking the throne, I wished you were beside me. She turned to face him fully, and Marcus saw something in her expression that made his heart soar. "I've spent the last 4 months restructuring the succession laws," she continued. "The Zarathi Empire will now recognize bonding partnerships with beings from other worlds, Officially, it's about strengthening diplomatic ties. Unofficially, ... Unofficially, Zara stepped closer, reaching up to cup his face in her hands, the way he'd done to her so many months ago in her garden. Unofficially, it means an empress can marry whomever she chooses. Even a disgraced human captain who once saved her life. Marcus felt tears threatening, tears of joy, of relief, of wonder that love could somehow triumph over the vastness of space itself. Are you proposing to me, Your Imperial Majesty? I'm asking if you'd be willing to give up everything you've ever known to be with someone who loves you more than life itself, Zara said, her voice breaking slightly. I'm asking if you'd be willing to help me rule an empire and build bridges between our peoples. I'm asking if you think what we have is worth the risk, Marcus answered by kissing her, pouring every ounce of love and longing he'd carried through the dark months of separation into that single connection. When they broke apart, both were crying freely. Is that a yes? Zara asked breathlessly. That's a yes to everything, Marcus replied. To you, to us, to whatever comes next. Outside the observation deck, Earth continued its ancient rotation, unaware that two hearts had just altered the course of galactic history. In the months and years to come, their union would face challenges neither could imagine: political opposition, cultural conflicts, and the simple difficulties of two different species learning to build a life together. But in that moment, surrounded by stars and possibility, Marcus Reed and Empress Zara Velthara knew only one truth. Love had conquered distance, defied logic, and proved that some forces in the universe were stronger than any obstacle. Their story was just beginning,